yelloo na ndox mu set te ndox mu set dafa bokk ci dunni doomu aadama te biir kat amul seetu waral na lépp lu fay dugg dafa war a doon li nga xamante ne ni lu indil doomu aadama bi loraange ci wàllu wér-gu-yaram One Stop Water Solution Limited ñu ngi fii ci biir réew taxaw temm fexe pour gis ne doomu aadama bu ne di nga naan ndox moo xamante ne ni ndex mu sell te wóor la ndax indil nañ leen ay xeetu filtres yi nga xamante ne ni mun ngeen koy jëfandikoo ci seeni pompe yi ci biir réew moo xam booxool ngay jëfandikoo wala pompe nawek yi ne bépp xeetu filtre bi nga xamante ne ni dina la indil wér-gu-yaram musal la ci loraange amal nañ leen ko ci biir réew am nañ 10-inch filter set of 3 bii nag ñett lay àndal bu ci ne ak li muy liggéey bokk na ci 5 micron pp sediment filter bii nag mooy segg ndox mi ba mu set génne fa lépp li nga xamante ne ni warta ànd ak ndox moomu bala nga koy jëfandikoo gak granule carbon filter bii nag mooy segg génne lépp lu xeetoog chemical ak organique yi nga xamante ne ñoom ñoo nekk ci biir ndox mi sellal ndox mi ba waral mu soppi li nga xamante ne moom la ndox mi di saf mu soppi cafin gi def ko ndox mu sell te óor CTO block carbon filter bii nag du yem rek ci segg ndox mi sellal ko ba mu sell waaye nag daf koy yokk ay ngéneel yi nga xamante ne ni day baax ci wér-gu-yaramu doomu aadama bi dëgëral waaye tamit yàggal lool sa yuur wi am nañ tamit 12-inch filter set of 3 boobu it liggéey bu nu mel lay def ñetti filter yépp benn bu ne ak lu muy liggéey am nañ 10-inch post carbon 10-inch coconut carbon 75 GPD pure one membrane bi amal nañ leen bépp xeetu water tank tàmbalee ko ci 500 litres 5000 ba ci 1000 litres ak plumbing fittings kon nag mbokk yi bu ngeen buggee naan ndex yu sell te wóor seeti leen One Stop Water Solution Limited suñu makkaan bu mag baa nga foofa ca Sukuta Highway Mariama Kunda Johnson wala nga call ñu ci 505 5691 796 8272 One Stop Water Solution Limited ndox mu set mooy yàggal dund ni doomu.
Good morning. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde. Thanks for joining us. And of course, it's another Wednesday morning here. We're broadcasting from our studios along the Kariba Avenue. And I have my colleague with me, Ansumana Esonyasi, reporting for QTV News. Welcome to the program, brother.
This guy is trouble, man. Good morning to all of you out there. I mean, we're happy to be back again on this platform. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning, and
Absolutely.
I look forward to an interesting show again.
Absolutely. It's good to be here, and on today's program we'll be looking at the African proverb as usual, and of course we'll also do the newspaper review. Mr. Mboj is with us as usual, our able Mamadou Mboj, and of course we'll also take a look at the Remembrance Day. It's very important for us to reflect, for us to at least recognize our fallen heroes. And so it will be very interesting again, as you know, this morning gives you all the things you need. Get ready to conquer a new day.
I mean, it's for me just the perfect way to start your morning. I mean, you tune into this show and, you know, you get to know what is happening, you know, socially, current affairs, in the world of sports, you know, and yeah, we get you all fired up for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go straight to the African proverb. As you know, proverbs are very important. I mean, they teach us many things. I mean, they guide us.
Yeah.
Some proverbs, if you follow them, they will lead you to a positive direction.
And they give you wisdom. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we go with our proverb for today.
Yes, let's take a look at the proverb and we'll be back.
Yeah, so that's a proverb on your screens. It reads, "The water of the river flows on without waiting for the thirsty man."
Oh yeah, I mean, well, interesting, and I know people will have a different way of interpreting this particular proverb. The water of the river flows on without waiting for the thirsty man. What do you make of this?
What do I make of that? For me, I think it's about opportunity. You know, it's always out there, whether you grab it or not. It's always out there. There's a chance. You know, and it's about going for it. I mean, I don't know even right, but this is what.
So I mean, I think I will slightly disagree.
Yeah.
When you say opportunity is always there, then where is that particular phrase we use, opportunity comes once? Yes. It comes once.
I see what you're driving at.
I don't think it's always there. I mean, sometimes it comes once, so you hit it. But it's difficult to make decisions because sometimes if you are within your comfort zone, it's difficult for you to take particular risk to get out of your comfort zone to go in for this opportunity.
You remember the popular phrase, go for your luck? Yeah. What do you make of that as well?
To go for your luck? Well, I mean, what about if you go out there and the luck is not there? I mean,
well, that is if you're a fuller man and you're so unlucky. Yeah.
Well,
but let's see if Mr. Mboj could also attempt to interpret this.
Mr. Mamadou Mboj,
I don't know what he would make of it.
Can you help us with this? We want to hear from the other side.
You've got it right. Basically, you know, taking opportunities when they come. When I read it, particularly with this river metaphor, if you like, I thought of, remember in Julius Caesar, Brutus. There's a tide in the affairs of men. Is it taking at the flood, it leads to fortune. Omit, I'm paraphrasing here, I can't remember exactly, but it seems it's similar sentiments, you know, similar insight, as it were. Yes, well, in the ever flow, the flux of circumstances, events, and all the rest of it, sometimes opportunities do come. You are right, it's not always granted, but I must have the discernment to see an opportunity and ride it. Otherwise, I may end up regretting all sorts of things, you know what I mean? And then perhaps even being angry with people who really never did anything to me. I miscalculated, I misjudged, so I paid a price. And every misjudgment or miscalculation, perhaps there's a price that you must pay.
Exactly. Interesting. And
so
well,
I kind of got that right.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes opportunities, Mr. Mboj, it's very difficult to make a particular decision. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, when you are in your comfort zone, Mr. Mboj, to take up risk, motivational speakers will tell you, take up the challenge. I mean, go start your own thing, go start your own business. It doesn't seem to be rosy like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. Human beings are far more complex than that. Go and take up business or go and take up that. I mean, it just depends on what is your disposition? What is your inclination? Where do you think that your talents lie? So that's really what is important here. Some people can be very entrepreneurial, you know, very good business people. They don't have to go to any institution to learn it. We see it all the time, you know, the banners. They just have a head for business. So this is what researchers have been saying for a very long time. To succeed in business or financially, it doesn't take IQ. They say maybe IQ contributes maybe 1 or 2% to that kind of success. Here, what matters is that your dispositional traits. You are conscientious, you are diligent, you are determined, you work hard. This is really what makes, you know, certain success, as it were, when it comes to finance and business and that sort of thing. So let us get the distinction. Here, some of the most successful entrepreneurs never went to that school, never did entrepreneurship or business or anything like that in university.
Well,
so be careful here what you're talking about.
Exactly. So it means you have to get the passion of doing a particular thing.
There is the passion, and there's something else. There has to be some measure of competence in what you do so that you can get the right outcomes. So you get a whole mix. Rarely would you have phenomena or outcomes be just monocausal, just caused by one thing. Often you find that things are multidimensional. You need A, B, C, and D to get outcome F, stuff like that.
Well, interesting, Mr. Mboj, it's always great to have him here.
Well, see why I keep saying, for me, I mean, it's always a pleasure to see at the same platform.
Well, it is said a child among men will soon be a man. So, so it's important.
I see
Mr.
you're
Boy.
coming up with
Yes,
so many
isn't it?
quotes and phrases and
You
proverbs
Mr.
this
Mbodj
morning.
ne ñun foog ñu mel nii rek. All right, viewers, thank you very much. That's the African proverb. Great interpretation up there. And of course, we'll take a short break. Reminded this program is officially sponsored by One Stop Water Solutions for all your water filters and dispensers. They are located at Sukuta Jabang traffic lights. We'll take a short break and we'll be back.
You've got big decisions to make.
For this election, one decision is clear.
Who has the most experience?
Who brings the in-depth coverage?
Who brings you most relevant information?
Now is the time to watch your decision pay off.
Live non-stop coverage.
Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Your text messages and election alerts.
Decision 2021 only on QTV.
Comprehensive election coverage.
Join the Gambia's fastest growing network and enjoy high-speed 4G LTE. Dial *335# to subscribe to QCell's 4G LTE service. There's no need to swap your SIM. QCell, Senior Boss. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back after that break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV's This Morning, and I am Ibrahim Balde. I'm joined by my colleague, Ansumana Eso Nyasi. We are about to take a ride. I mean, we are up and running. Eso Nyasi.
Yeah, my favorite, segment on the program.
Yeah. So we'll go straight to the newspaper review. As you know, most people will be waiting for this. Eso.
Yeah. So we start with the Fourier newspaper this morning. On the front page, the headlines, we start with the NHRC, that is the National Human Rights Commission. They've issued a statement that they're very concerned about the statements of Dabo and Barrow. IEC commenced nationwide 2021 voters cards replacement. NCCE urges Gambians to desist from preventing politicians from holding their meetings. Mamburi Njai reveals GCCPC recovered $800,000 from real estate dealers. Acting Vice Chancellor says UTG grappling with challenges.
That's the Fourier newspaper.
Yes.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the headlines on the Standard newspaper. This is a repetition. National Human Rights Commission, condemned Barrow Dabo campaign exchange, and of course, High Court to hear GMC's petition on Friday. Barrow says opponents reluctant to acknowledge his achievements are hypocrites. And of course, Amir Traore urges peace and calm ahead of elections. Gambian voters give thumbs up to President Barrow's democratic credentials. That's what we have on the Standard newspaper. Mr. Mbodj, once again, welcome to This Morning. You know, we're going straight to
interesting headlines.
Yes. Okay, let's take a look at the National Human Rights Commission. I mean, they've issued a statement to maintain peace and condemn hate speech when it comes to the two biggest political parties in this country.
Yes, that was just sort of a word of caution. A word to the wise, as it were. We'll make them sort of properly take heed of what is being said here. It's a very sensitive moment, really, in our history. You know, this is the first time, really, post-Jammeh, we are testing, as it were, our democratic sinews. This is going to be a kind of measure of how far have we come in 4 or 5 years, as it were. So the responsibility is on all of us to comport ourselves. You know what I mean? Yesterday was World Day for Tolerance, and we were talking about tolerance, particularly in this political climate. So we must be responsible in the way we talk to show the world how far we've come. That was the whole idea, really. So that was it. So the National Human Rights Council Commission was really perhaps talking to everybody. Moderate your language. We've often said it here. being in political opposition doesn't make you enemies. So we don't need to use certain vile language, sort of divisive or unnecessarily emotional. This sort of arises out of this excessive, the emotional responses to certain things. I mean, if you want to be a leader, you must know how to swallow certain things without falling for them. Try to see the wood for the trees, as they say, not the second, the minor stuff, the big stuff. I think that was really what the National Human Rights Commission was trying to do.
I think it's a good reminder to all, political leaders, especially those who are campaigning at this moment. I think this is the time when we should all look up to our national anthem, our national pledge, which talks about what mutual respect, about tolerance, of diversity. And I think it's good that our political leaders also understand that this is a moment when our campaign should be issue-based, and we should be engaged in politics of issues and not confrontations. And I think yesterday we did talk about the IEC code of conduct that all these political parties and their leaders have signed to, especially for the campaign period, which really is against the use of inflammatory language and all of that. So
yes, you see, the inflammatory stuff is one thing,
yeah,
but the tolerance, you see, this is the key. I've said this one here before,
that's
and I will recount this anecdote. This is the 1987 parliamentary elections in this country. I was supporting somebody called Sam Silla. He was a soldier, the PPP candidate. This was in Bakau. And there was Dembo by Force, Dembo Bojang. We call him Dembo by Force. He's still active in politics. NCP, everybody knows that. I wore Sam Silla's T-shirt. I went into Dembo Bojang's house because I had friends there. So we are a Force family. Nobody attacked me. Nobody insulted me. So the idea of this divisiveness, one party we are intolerant of another, this is new.
Yes,
it's not our roots. It's not our roots at all. The roots are not like that at all. So we took the wrong turn at some point. So this is where we've ended up. But this is not our roots. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but it's good that the National Human Rights Commission condemns this. I mean, especially taking a bright example, Dabo and Barrow, because when you talk about politics in this country now, at the moment, the mental picture that you have is UDP, NPP. So it's important for them to intervene at this time and condemn such.
No. This is about us.
Yeah,
let's move away from scapegoating.
Yeah, it's way beyond
our societies, we scapegoat all the time. We think that we are okay, but it's him, or that one, or that one. This is really about people. When you look at the bigger picture, in many ways, how we conduct ourselves, what we do, and that sort of thing. We've said it here before. For instance, any rally you have, you're bound to get perhaps some yobs or some people who are there for criminal intent. You're bound to get all sorts of things. But let's be careful how we report it. Whoever, I can even wear a T-shirt, but I just don't care. Maybe I wouldn't even go and vote. But I can come and cause some mischief, and then suddenly perhaps the papers will take it and say, oh, that's UDP, or that's NPP, or this is that. Let us use more constructive language. When you're faced with situations, sometimes you have the kind of leader or personality who would go for fault finding. You have others who would go for providing solutions. This is the problem now. Whenever we face this, what are the solutions? What are the positive stories? If you keep on hacking on the negative ones, possibly you might make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So for me, the glass is always half full. I will never go for the glasses half empty.
I totally agree with you there. I think it's way beyond one party or the other. I mean, this is about us, all of us. And I think this is a reminder for everyone, especially those who are actively, who are active in, in politics, to understand that, there's a set of rules guiding this electoral process, and we all have to follow that and ensure that we have peaceful elections, campaign peacefully, and focus more on our policies and programs, and I think it's the only way forward. So this is for everyone.
Okay, let's move to the next story. Barrow says opponents reluctant to acknowledge his achievements are hypocrites?
Well, this is political context.
Yeah, political language.
They're not going to be that generous. So, sorry, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Your Excellency.
but I mean, it's political to
Yeah.
Barrow to talk this way. It's politics.
Exactly.
It is politics for the opponents not to recognize his developments. But it is also politics for Barrow to say this.
Yeah, and then where does it lead us? And then where to next?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, when it comes to all these roads, the village, the bridges, that is there, that is obvious. Nobody can deny that. But here, what I called yesterday in my report on the wrestle mat of electoral politics, people don't get caught here, sir. This is the nature of it. So I'm not sure where this is going to take us next.
Exactly. It's important. Amir Tarawale urges peace and calm ahead of elections. The Amir of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat.
Yeah, and that is just an echo of what people have been saying all over the place. I mean, that is just a riff. Everybody's been saying that. It tells you maybe there is some kind of anxiety in the air, about what's going to happen. And one perhaps understands why. And maybe I've heard people say stuff like between NPP and UDP there appears to be this sort of enmity, as it were. I do not know why it should be, but perhaps I do. Barrow was part of NPP, and sometimes these things can be more vicious when you are family. In many ways, they are family, really. So I don't see why it should really degenerate to that. If you think that you've got a strong program, you are the right candidate. Sell your message to the people.
Exactly.
The significant thing is on the 4th. You want people to get up and come and vote for you. So maybe one can just focus on that. How do I make people to come and vote for me? What program do I have? And hopefully, ideally, we just want them to focus, as I was saying, on the programs and the policies and that sort of thing. But what chance of that happening? We've seen a flavor of already what is to come. It's nearly over anyway. But this is the nature of politics. We have to take it. This is democratic politics. It's not nice. We wanted democracy the whole time. Now we've got it. This is what is. I'm telling you. Anywhere you go.
It comes with a price.
Go to Britain right now, and what people will tell you about what Boris Johnson is doing. I mean, we've all experienced the Trump era. Democracy is really nasty. It's slow. It brings out, perhaps it brings out the worst in us. I don't know. It's a sort of double-edged sword. It can bring you wonderful things, but democratic politics, now what is it? It's just so populist these days. It's just so appealing to the lowest common denominator. It can be...
Mr. Boj, I'm a bit confused when you say democracy is dirty and it's a sword with two edges.
It's a double-edged sword.
What do you mean? Should we go in for a semi-democracy or what?
No, that's a discussion for another platform, I'm afraid. But this is it. The nature of democracy is you allow wider participation, which is a good thing. But as Churchill once said, the most damning argument against democracy is 5 minutes conversation with your average voter. A lot of people were afraid of democracy because you appeal to the lowest common sentiments, and it might encourage demagoguery. You don't get necessarily the best people winning in democracy. There's no way. It doesn't work like that. Now it's all about packaging, marketing. This is what I see.
Demagoguery.
Demagoguery, yes.
We've moved from democracy to demagoguery.
For me,
interesting.
They are the same, actually. They are the same.
For me, I think it's good that we have our religious and political leaders, reminding us of the need to, see through this election process peacefully. I think it's good, and I really would encourage that they keep, preaching this message.
But will we take heed?
It's about taking heed as well. That's also important.
Look at the COVID-19, all the awareness sort of campaigns, I mean, I will listen, but I wouldn't necessarily take it. So somehow we need to, I do not know, revolutionize how we communicate. What is being lost in translation? What is going on here? It appears that there's a kind of breakdown of trust between, I don't know, the general public and perhaps our institutions. So we need to go searching deeper to see what's going on, because some of these messages seem not to be going through.
Well, I think sometimes it's important, Mr. Mboj, no matter how you communicate, it depends on the people that you are communicating to digest the message and take up responsibility. If you don't take up responsibility, it will be a white elephant.
The people and their leaders were in this feedback relationship, so I don't think that people just deliberately sit there and know that. I know that this is the fact, but I will deliberately follow something else. What they follow is really what they believe in their heads to be the facts. So when I have a large number of people behaving that way, then I know that perhaps there's a social problem. If I have a few, I'll call them what? Aberrations. You know, the general rule isn't like that. Perhaps so. But when I have a huge number thinking in a similar way, maybe I have a social problem. How do I diagnose that? What kind of prescription can I bring? Public policy, social policy is extremely difficult when you're dealing with human beings.
Yeah.
Human beings are difficult.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, let's move to the next story. High Court to hear GMC's petition Friday. I can remember the communications person from IEC was here yesterday. I asked him about this issue.
Indeed, I think what he said was, before coming on the show, he did not receive any information regarding to GMC's petition at the court, but that he said they were prepared anyway, and that they would you know be ready to respond, you know, to whatever, you know, petitions they receive. Now, initially we had what, CA and JUF. Now you had GMC as well. I think we've discussed this from Monday. For me, it's a good thing that they're trying the courts. But then since it is in court, we cannot really say much on that. We can't make, you know, much comment on this. But again, you look at the timing, you look at the time that they have now to elections. I think
we have few more days to go.
2 weeks actually, to be specific. Well, let's see what happens.
Let's see what will happen, Mr. Mboj.
Yes, obviously it is their constitutional right.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that. What are the merits of the case? The court will determine. But one gets a sense that with all these petitions, maybe they're just going through the emotions.
Yeah.
As it were, one just simply cannot see what would be overturned, because we've got a little bit of experience, a little bit of history. These are all really small parties. They are all novices. I mean, some of them have been, perhaps the leader of GMC has been in politics for a while now. I think he came through, what, when was it formed, 2016 or just before that?
2006.
2006.
Yeah.
But then there doesn't seem to be really any following of some sort. The membership, I do not know what's happening. As I said the last time, some of these indicators, the objective indicators, like for instance in the 2017, when you were a party and you want to be taken seriously and you want to be one of the big boys, at least try to get a few in the National Assembly. We haven't seen that. The councillor elections as well, nothing. So, and then you have Joseph Juf was never into politics. Suddenly you come in and want to dive in the deep end, becoming president. So we have all of these novices. One can do that, but now the reality of it is beginning to hit you. It's extremely difficult to go into power, to vie for power and move on. Things are easier said, as it were, when you are on the other side. You are in opposition. That's what one commentator once remarked, where all you need to move is just your lips. But now you want to move on to the other side. That is extremely difficult. So nobody would say that a newcomer cannot win it. But the reality now we are beginning to see, that was why we got from 26 or something of the potential sort of candidates to 6. That tells you how difficult
I'll
these
give you this
things are.
proverb. Olof Njaay mu ne but duy enu de waaye su gisee lu boppa bi antal rek mu xam ko.
This guy is something else.
So, Eso,
Yes.
IEC commends a nationwide voters
card
replacement.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important exercise, and I think it gives chance to people who may have lost their cards, or maybe if your card, is damaged, you have an opportunity to have it replaced, and you're able to vote come December 4th.
I think there is a fee
and
that you pay.
I
think it's important for us to make it very clear.
Isn't it $100?
$100. So in case those watching out there, if IEC comes to you to replace it for $100, it doesn't mean it have to be free like
it was.
Yes. So know that it's $100.
Yeah, I think, the message should be that, for anyone who may have lost your card or is damaged, this is an opportunity for you to have it replaced. And so you can go to any of the IEC regional offices, and you'll have it replaced. I think in somewhere, was it in Canifing or in Brikama? I understand just yesterday they had more than 100 people replacing their cards.
I think it was in Brikama.
Yeah, in Brikama.
So
it tells you.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're saying they're expecting even more people.
Well, how can people lose their cards like that? 100 people, Mr. Boy, that's too much.
Well,
remember that you're talking about Brikama. Can you imagine how many hundreds of thousands?
Yeah, I know. But I cannot imagine also 100 people losing their cards within the short time. When did we start the voters registration?
They're expecting, in fact, more.
It finished
than that.
In July.
Yeah, in July.
The registration was on
August,
11th.
July.
Yeah, it was in 11th August. I think it finished from
May
to July.
To July.
Wasn't it? Yes. These things happen. But what is important here is there's an opportunity for you to go and get a new one if your voter's card's been damaged and all the rest of it. So really,
it's a good move that IEC happens to take this step. So that people will replace. It's important. Otherwise, all those 100 people will not vote.
And we want a huge voter turnout.
Indeed, and maybe I think we should do this in the local language as well to remind people who are watching that they can have their voters' cards replaced. So I'll let you go first.
Yes.
Mandinka and Fula and
Musibe Onjarama.
Jola, okay.
You want me to use that word?
No.
You remember I have a word in Jola. I'll use it.
Please don't.
Musibe Onjarama, comme wona yewtude do sengo IEC ko dum woni hibe arde onon be andura hedo jogino voters card ji haadi majji. Joni IEC aray e dulaji mon fi yigol dido voters card ji be jonniti on de kono ko temedre tun yoboton e goldo mi nginna on kala ko wawdo woni resita voters card ma majjitum ida wayade ko is it the area council da wayade ko area council IEC regional office ji mabbe be jonna on ko andura ko dum woni voters card ji mondin te ko temedre to yoboton no jogi nafa eso.
Jërëjëf Balde mbokk yi lii dañoo fàttali wante rek ne IEC ñooy xamal askan bi ne képp koo xam ne sa voters card mooy sa carte bi nga sànnee carte si bési élection bi su dee dafa réer wala dafa yàqu mën ngaa dem IEC seen regional office yi nga xam ne ñoo nekk ci tunda yëpp ñu defaral la beneen waaye da ngaa fay $100 si mooy téeméer.
waaw téeméer rek nga fay téeméer den gars yi replace la sa voters card bi loolu am na solo lool.
am na solo moom.
Wow,
that's important.
Yes.
So there's this important one as well on the Foreign newspaper. The NCCE urges Gambians to desist from preventing politicians from holding their meetings. We used to have reports of these incidents here and there, and I think it's rather unfortunate. You can't do that, really.
Oh, absolutely, yes. We've talked about it here, during our planning, as it were, for the elections. So we sort of try to assess, as it were, what do you think could be the possible flashpoints? You know what I mean? So there might be certain flash points. Yes? You can imagine, for instance, UDP going to certain areas and then the people will just make it difficult, you know, unnecessarily so, maybe insulting or hurling, whatever, all sorts of things. Or NPP tries to go somewhere, then you get a similar thing, or PD or IS. One can imagine these things. But this is really what the key is. We shouldn't allow people to say that this person or that person cannot come here to canvass our votes, you know, as part of the campaign. We cannot allow people to do that. It will be a precedent. So this is really where perhaps the security forces, this is where they will become very, very important. Because when it comes to politics, sometimes we tend to lose our heads, are cool, and then just allow the emotion, the heart, sort of to run things, and all sorts of things can happen. So we need the security forces to be there, absolutely impartial, apply the laws. If a party wants to campaign in this area, and you know they fulfill all the criteria, they should do that. You're not going to allow the residents around saying that no, because they support a different party. Exactly. Because any community you see, they are never monolithic. You have some, perhaps most, if you like, most perhaps would support one party, but the others would support all the parties. And it is their right for their candidate to come over there and try to get votes. And indeed, you know, depending on how he performs, he might even get 1 or 2 votes of people who had decided to vote for another party. So there's no community that is strictly monolithic, that is just strictly homogeneous, it's just everybody supports one party. For that reason, it will be very important what the security forces do when they encounter situations like that.
Well, I think
you must set a good precedent.
Well, I think it's two-way. I mean, the community, they have a role to play to maintain that peace, and the party that is coming in that community, they have a role to play, because if you're coming to my community, you have to come in peace, communicate your message in peace. After that, then we will also welcome you with peace. So I think it's important for them to know how to balance these things.
That is very true, but maybe you're a bit naive that just because I behave well, the other person will behave well. Not necessarily so. We wish that life had that symmetry, as it were. It will be easier really to deal with other people, but it doesn't work like that. You have certain militants, they might try to disrupt these meetings, so we have to be realistic about these things. So maybe, you know, the honest people in the community will tell them, no, you cannot do this, that matters, instead of people just keeping quiet. Silence is an enemy really in the community in many ways. So you need good people to get up, stand up and say what is. And then we also need the law to help. But you know, given how charged the political atmosphere is, perhaps in some communities they may try to do that. So we have to be realistic and prepare for the worst.
I think that this is in relation to what Mr. Moj said earlier. I mean, the reason why you have this statement is because you go to certain communities and they'll tell you, no, we're supporting party X, and so you're not welcomed here because you're from a different party. And I think for me this is so unfortunate. You can't do that. If you don't belong to a certain party or you don't support that party, and they come to your community to hold their meetings or their rallies, especially during this time, you know, just let them have their rallies and
stay in your house.
If you can't,
or move away from the whole area if you want.
Go
visit
right
your
to
friends
anyone
from where else.
You know.
Well, Mr. Moj, this is the era of politics, and at the moment everything is hot. Everybody is doing whatever you like. Let's talk about the way people are doing politics. We have seen vehicles that are overloaded. It's important for us to address this. We've seen children on top of vehicles, and at the same time we've seen a lot of things, I mean, which are very dangerous. So these are things that should be addressed by, I think, political leaders.
No, these are things that community leaders address. That has nothing to do with politics. Outside of this political cycle, we do exactly the same things.
I think it starts from home.
We overload things, we use kids in all sorts of ways. I mean, there are certain aspects of our society that we must talk about, rather than just pointing to politicians. This is the key. If you rely on politicians, sometimes they will never talk about it. When a politician comes to your community, possibly he's thinking of telling you what you want to hear. the difficult stuff, really, the real leader, what the real leader does, is that look at really what you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
A leader is not a follower. You know what I mean? I need to listen to what my people say, but it's strictly not a follower. I often quote the Russian writer Tolstoy, saying that a leader is somebody who looks at where humanity is going. I lead my people there. You know, but you do have some, they just look at the crowd, wherever the crowd goes, they will just run ahead of the crowd and start walking. They think that they are leading. Whenever the crowd turns, they will run again and stand in front. They think
the
they are
crowd
leading.
is leading them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot follow populism. I will consult, but populism is just for the moment. You know how people are like, instant gratification.
But at some point, if you behave that manner, they'll say you're not a leader, you are a boss.
No, that's like two different concepts. The bossy type, the officious person, is just about perhaps processes, procedures, perhaps emphasizing too much on presenteeism, perhaps instead of productivity. We know that attitude of a boss, you know, so finicky, cannot see the wood for the trees, that sort of thing. We know that. We're not talking about a boss. We're talking about a leader. And you got to know, I was just discussing this subject the other day with Housing Cisse, and we made a distinction between a leader and a ruler. There are just so many rulers. All they can do is just impose stuff and whatever. But a leader is something slightly superior. Just really, good leaders can make a huge difference to the direction and prosperity of a society in many ways. It's just that maybe, now maybe this is going to be controversial, maybe under conditions of democracy, what a leader can do, it's really very, very limited given the nature of democracy, the art of compromise and stuff like that. Yeah. In our societies, what we want is radical change. But radical change, it's very difficult to do that within conditions of democracy because I have to compromise with you guys. Yeah. You know, that is why I have to say this. The improvements that I've seen on the African continent, I don't think the massive ones, the radical ones, I don't think it came from democratic countries. They came from dictatorships, sorry to say.
I think it's good that, I mean, Balde has raised this. Often when you talk about some of these things, I mean, people will tell you, well, you know, these things have been here for ages, you know, people we're used to saying these things. But for me, I keep saying this, we cannot normalize what is not right. And I think Mr. Mboj has a point there. It starts from us, from home, from society, and you know, not just the politicians. And these are things that I don't think politicians would really want to address, given, you know, because, I mean, you look at it, if you're having a political engagement or activity, you want people to be there. And many a times it is, like you said, these young people that, you know, would fill up these places. So you are pretty much careful how you address that. But again, it starts from us, from home. If things are to change, it starts from us.
That's it. With me, I tend to appeal to youth, especially you people. And here, let us be careful here. I once heard John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, former U.S. president, talking to the youth, and he said, look, I'm not talking about youth here as a sort of like a particular time in your life. I'm talking about youth as a mentality.
Yeah.
So you must, that mentality must really change. You must not do what we do. Yeah. You're grown-ups. There are certain things you must learn from us, obviously, for any movement to happen, to take place. You need the experience and the energy of youth to be combined. But look at some of our faults, and you say, no, we're not going to do that. It is not healthy for the young to replicate exactly, to reproduce what they are. Yeah. It's not healthy at all. There must be what they say, descend with a curve.
Well, interesting.
Yes,
it's always good to have Mr. Mboj around.
I'm telling you.
Because, I mean, you learn a lot, man, you know.
Well, see why I am always close to him.
Well, I think, is that all we have on the newspaper review?
Yeah, on the forum, yeah.
On the forum, yeah. Okay, viewers, we'll take a short break. That was the newspaper review, and we'll go straight to what we call the...
Remembrance Day.
Yes, Remembrance Day. Remember, this program is officially and proudly sponsored by One Stop Water Solutions for all your water dispensers and, of course, filters. They are located at Sukuta Jabang traffic lights. After the break, we'll take a look at Remembrance Day. We'll be back.
With so many things to do in a single day, it's important to have a network you can trust. When there's family and friends to connect with and business calls to make, you need a network that is reliable and fast. Talk longer, browse faster, go farther, and roam wider. When your network is solid, the world is your oyster. QCell, your trusted network in the Gambia.
You've got big decisions to make.
For this election, one decision is clear.
Who has the most experience?
Who brings the in-depth coverage?
Who brings you most relevant information?
Now is the time to watch your decision pay off.
Live non-stop coverage.
Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Your text messages and election alerts.
Decision 2021 only on QTV.
Comprehensive election coverage.
Exactly. Interesting, comprehensive election coverage.
Yep.
So, it's going to be great,
I mean,
well, you've seen the promo, man.
you know, I mean, I said this yesterday and I'll say it again for our viewers, and Gambians, home and abroad, and, friends of the Gambia. You want the best of this year's election coverage? This is the place.
Well, there is no doubt about it, because the nomination, well, we've all seen how everything turned out. QTV was there, and people were 100% okay with all the happenings. And of course, now we'll take what we call the Remembrance Day, as we promised, and we have a video done by one of our reporters. We'll take a look at that video, and after the video, there'll be a very important discussion. We'll be back.
The commemoration of our gallant war heroes was marked by a march past and the traditional wreath laying. The army, with members of its infantry battalions and the Gambia Police Force, observed Remembrance Day in Banjul at the cenotaph with a military parade. There was a 2-minute silence marked with 2-gun salute in honor of their ultimate sacrifice for world peace. Presiding over the Remembrance Sunday event was the Vice President, Dr. Aïssatou Touré, who attended to pay tribute to the war heroes on behalf of the President and every Gambian. As part of the Remembrance Sunday service, the Vice President, members of the Diplomatic Corps and other representatives laid wreaths to pay their respect to those who lost their lives in their line of duty. Captain Malik Sanyang, the PRO of the Gambia Armed Forces, tells us the significance of War Veterans and Remembrance Day in the history of the Gambia and the military.
Because if anybody is to understand what these people went through, the ordeal they have to go through, remembering, their Shokto campaign and then remembering their Caladan River crossing campaign, you will realize that we would know it far better because we are indeed presently.
Remembrance Day is a sad moment of reflection of a bitter history of a bloody conflict involving hundreds of thousands of African soldiers who fought and lost their lives in the battlefront. For the Gambia, more than 1,000 survived the war, while dozens left dead in the jungle of Burma, now known as Myanmar, without a dignified burial. Alpha Osman Jallo is the Public Relations Officer of the World War II Veterans Family Association.
We know many died there, and up till now, we don't even know where their graves are for them to be honored. Whilst we are honoring graves of other fallen soldiers in other parts of the world. But for ours, they may be somewhere in Burma or in India or Caladan, but we've not even done any research to find out where they are so that we can honor them. That is one thing.
On their return home after the war, the veterans had little to show except for the injuries and scars left on their bodies, the legacies of their sacrifice. The last Gambian World War II warrior, Ibu Jaha, who is 102 years, is a glaring example of the many veterans who spend their post-war time struggling to feed their families. Despite his age and since his return from the war, Mr. Jaha owns a workshop where he spends time making a living for himself and his family.
Those who came back, they also were not given the due honor and dignity so that once they come back, they could live a dignified life. Instead, when they came back, some of them were recruited back into the field force, but others were then sent back home to the countryside, and they returned as farmers. Some of them had found, their families, in disarray, and they lived lives of hardship and poverty. They went back to the fields, and there was no support as promised when they came back.
Remembrance Day, Gambia, as in many parts of the world, is used to remember not only those who died in World War I and II, but also the people who fought in many wars and paid the ultimate price. They lost their lives.
Welcome back from that news item done by our own Momodu Lamin Choi on Remembrance Day. Well, Remembrance Day, when you talk about this, it's quite sad. I mean, Gambia plays a very important role when it comes to sending people to participate. And so, it's very sad how things turn out to be. Yeah. Most of these people, some of them you cannot even know where they are buried, whether they are given a dignified burial. And some of them, the ones that are lucky to come back home, the life they live was terrible.
I think, it's a good thing that their lives and their sacrifices, are being, honored and they're being remembered, at least for those who were able to make it home. For what happened to them after they returned, for some of them, I think it's rather unfortunate, given the sacrifices that they made. And for those who lost their lives while fighting, it's rather unfortunate as well. But again, I think our situation, for me, is a bit sad compared to other places, where you have this, World War veterans been well taken care of. Of course, not all, but at least, there are attempts here and there. You look at, for example, the life of Mr. Jangha. The only surviving, veteran we have now. And it tells you just how much, attention and support these people needed, especially when they returned. Unfortunately, they didn't get that. To have him still working, at his shop, to be able to take care of his family.
At that age, he is 102.
102, at 102 years. I think that shouldn't have happened.
Mr. Moj, is it fair? Is this fair, Mr. Moj? Mr. Jangha, should he be left this way? Should he struggle for living? Is it fair for things to turn out this way, Mr. Moj?
Well, but now what is fair in life?
So you're telling me life is not fair?
It doesn't work like that. When you go to Britain as well, after the First World War, the soldiers who were decommissioned, they all have their stories. You go to the United States. This appears to be a common experience, as it were, after war, or what can happen. Of course, there's a huge difference, because over there, the societies, their economies are richer. They have more money. So there are certain things that they couldn't do. Here, the argument has always been that we fought on behalf of the British Empire. This was in our war.
Exactly.
At all of it started there. Let's start with the First World War between what they call, I think, the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance, as it were. So we were enlisted, we went over there, we fought for them. But again, our contribution, in that clip, we heard the spokesman referring to the Caladan campaign. That was the Second World War in Burma.
Yeah.
The contribution, really, to the whole war effort, everybody contributed, and we didn't claim to have sort of made a significant contribution. Our numbers were quite small anyway. But the contribution we made, the gallantry, yes, there should have been some kind of gratitude, as it were, shown by the Brits.
Yeah.
we all know that.
Yeah.
They created the Fajara, the Fajara War Cemetery is being financed, funded by the Commonwealth Graves Commission, is it something like that. But still, perhaps what was due, they could have done more for the people from the Commonwealth, as it were, and we were part of it. But again, we understand these things. We were the colonized. We very much were the inferior, as it were, partner. We know the motives, the impulses that were behind the decisions, as it were, not to do what really they should have done in many ways. It was in our war. We fought for them. They should have paid.
He also mentioned dignified burial.
In our war cemetery, as I understand it, there are 4 unknown soldiers. Yes, maybe they had a dignified burial, but this is common. How many people have been buried or left on the field of battle? War is ugly. I'm not sure what kind of organization you want whereby everything will be done right. What does that mean? War means chaos. We just try to salvage the little that we can, as it were. So, unfortunately, this is what is in many ways. But my heart's off to Ibu Jangha.
Yeah,
I really love this story, especially, I'm not sure whether you guys read
I read
the piece
on Al Jazeera and the DW as well.
Deutsche Welle. Yes. This is my favorite anecdote. When he said that, when they captured, there was a time they captured some Japanese, and then the Japanese looked at him and said, "Oh, Gambia, small but hot."
But hot, yeah.
That's what he said to Ibu Jangha.
That's our motto.
Yeah.
Small
but hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just hope that he would be, supported and well taken care of, at least for the remainder of his life.
Is Ibu
the
Jangha
part that
still
struck
alive?
me is when
the last survivor,
yeah,
he's 102.
Yeah.
Maybe with him, yes, absolutely. For the family and stuff like that. That is what they worry about. But perhaps here we must focus maybe on remembrance. So what are we remembering? Maybe these are the wider, issues that are really significant at this point.
If it may be naming something after Ibu Jangha. Maybe a particular structure, maybe having something to call it Ibu Jangha, maybe barracks or something. I think that will also be a very good one.
Or maybe the army, the Ibu Jangha medal.
Or
for bravery or whatever.
Ibu Jangha Road.
Anyway,
you see, when President Barrow named the Basse Bridge as Samba Juma Bridge, I think that was the best thing ever done. You can see that Samba Juma guy, he was a generous man, a very good man. I mean, students will cross. Even President Adama Barrow, when he was going to school, according to what I had, he will cross and he will help him cross. So it's good that he named that bridge after that guy. So I think these are heroes, Mr. Mboy. Sometimes you don't have to be big, to become a hero.
Of course not. It doesn't matter. And that is big. Can you imagine going to war? The risks you face, the bravery, the courage, and then somehow you manage to tell the tale.
You talk about, this time when they were ambushed and, how they managed to escape all of that. You think about those things, and, the part that really struck me is, in the report when Choi mentioned that they have nothing to, so for taking part in that war, for taking the risk, the sacrifice and everything, except the scars they have on their bodies.
People like Hasum Sise, they are doing very good. They are trying, at least they are, taking a big task to dig into our history. But I think they should do more, Mr. Boch.
I think they're always doing more. What we need to do is, now, okay, you're giving me all this history. What is it for?
The study of past events.
Well, how is it going to help me in the future? What I mean is, what are you learning from it?
Yeah.
You just it's like putting everything just in a museum. It's not simply about digging. And we have this habit. We just want to dig our past glory. There's something about us locating our moment of glory, our golden age, as it were, in the past. When I dig up my golden age, fine, in the past, as it's here, how is it going to motivate me to move forward? That is really what our question is.
Yeah.
How is it making me move forward? We appear to be reproducing the worst part of our nature so far, in many ways. So for me, that is really the crux of it. History is really to propel me to the future. It's not simply to glory in it. I see a lot of people, oh, our grandparents did this, oh, we did that, oh, we did that. Look at your condition now. That is really what the reality is, not what happened in the past. Look at your condition now. So we are learning about the past so that we can derive, as it were, the right lessons. It will give us more understanding of ourselves for us to move forward. The past must always serve the future.
The reason why I said that, we should look into our history. My child, Esau's child, your 11-year-old boy, will know about Ibu Jangha tomorrow.
And then what will happen with that knowledge? You see, you seem not to understand what I'm saying. Yeah. It's good to have that knowledge, but what does it do next? It is not just knowledge for its own sake. What does that mean? Knowledge is something that you can use. Some people define knowledge as like useful information.
How does it
propel? This is what I'm saying.
Influence your future.
There's a danger here because you see it all the time. People, we just tend to sort of just glory in the past. Yeah. Just dig up the wonderful stuff, the gold, the family china, oh, nice. And then what? I'm just wallowing in it. That is undynamic. There's no movement. Here the emphasis must be movement. So when I teach my child that Ibu Jangha did this, and then what? That is what the question is. And then what?
And then what? Interesting, Eso.
Indeed.
I mean, I think if you know about a past history, you try and utilize it to motivate you. I mean, it's important sometimes to find things that motivate you, things that will make you brave, things that will make you, things that will catapult you, Mr. Mboj.
Okay, which historical figures are your models?
We have Sadao. We have Sadao.
No. Say
I have Sadao.
I didn't ask the country. I say
yes. I have Sadao the Kairaba Jawara. He's a motivation.
In what way? Specifically,
okay.
Has he motivated?
Let's talk about the Banjul Declaration. Well, he signed the Banjul Declaration. Okay. It's important. Is the Banjul Declaration not important?
Oh, absolutely. That was a radical, pioneering document. Yeah. What I want to know is, because of you just said something about learning from this, you have a more idealistic perspective,
yes.
As it were.
So this is my perspective. Now that I've learned about Sadao the Kairaba's Banjul Declaration, I mean, it's a motivation.
How has it motivated you? Specifically, what have you done because of specifically you got that motivation from the Banjul Declaration?
Well, there we got it. What have I done? And how it's benefiting me.
Exactly. I think this is what Mr. Mboj has been driving at. I mean, what he's trying to say is, it's one thing to dig into the past, but how is what you're learning from what has happened in the past motivating you? How is it helping you going forward?
How
How
are
is
you
it
gonna use
positively influencing
How are you using
you,
it?
I mean, going forward?
So, Mr. Mboj, what are you saying now? We should not learn about our history.
No,
Oh my
no.
God.
I'm just asking a question. I just want to know.
This fuller man.
Wow.
No, I just want to know.
This is going to be a difficult one.
Well, yes. well, because no, wait, we have to.
I think maybe we should go back to talking about remembrance.
No, I just want to make this clear.
This is going to be a difficult one.
Let's make it clear.
Because you're a bit of a sort of blunt instrument. This is either this or it is that. Not seeing the complexity between the two, as it were. It is not that don't learn history. I mean, if I don't learn history, how would I know myself at all? Exactly. It's about when I learn history, why am I learning it? Is it merely to glory in the fact that this thing has happened, or to tease something out of that would propel me into the future?
That's what I'm talking about.
This is really what we are talking about.
Yes.
But what is it? It shouldn't be merely rhetorical.
Yeah.
A lot of people will do that. You know, even if you were to go into the details of what Sadauda did, you've probably not really read about it. So you have a mythical figure in your head without really knowing the details. I mean, we did that when we were younger. We had people like Amilcar Cabral, Sankara, and others, but we really didn't know them.
Yeah.
Until you go into the details of what actually did he do.
Every Gambian,
What did
as
he
part of the
say?
Remembrance Sunday service,
You need to see
the Vice
reason.
President.
It is only doing that I can learn to move on.
It's like in the wall of
need to
saying,
get the
"Go ham
details.
finger joge, ham finger jim."
You need the details, though, not simply the rhetorical aspects of it.
So yeah, so back
Interesting.
to the Remembrance Day. You know, for me, again, I just want to emphasize this point, especially for Ibu Jangha's case. He's the only surviving war veteran we have, the only one, the last one, and I think, if anything, what we can do as a society, as a country, as a people, is to, you know, give him all the support, you know, and celebrate his life, you know, at least for the remainder of his life, and even beyond. You know, we can't afford to not give him that, because we have not really given, you know, much to his other colleagues. So he's the last surviving one. And in fact, I think we're lucky to still have him around, given what he's, you know, been through. You know, you look at the scars on his body, you look at his age, he's still strong, working at his shop, you know, going around his normal business. I think we're lucky to still have him around. And
Yes.
what we can do now is to make sure, you know, he lives a comfortable life.
But we also have family members of those who are veterans. They might not be alive, but we still have their family members around.
Yeah.
Some of them were sent back to the provinces. Their families are still here.
Yes, that's a difficult one. Public policy, what can one do? The family members, this all happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Family members are now grown. This is a tricky one.
It is.
This is a tricky one. We'll leave it to the policymakers, the politicians, and all of that to see what one can do about that. Maybe it's easier to talk about the one who is alive.
Alive, yeah.
The person who went and fought and came back. The primary agent, as it were. He's here. And that is a very interesting point you've made. So we can honor him in all sorts of ways. You know, it doesn't just have to come from government, you know, maybe the National Center for Arts and Culture, that's one element. Private individuals can do, you know, can honor him in different ways. And earlier on, sir, you know, whilst in a sense we were brainstorming, perhaps create an Ibu Jangha Medal of Bravery in the Army. So there are many ways, and yes, why not on a road? You know, we do that all the time. So we can honor him in all sorts of ways. As examples to wider society. We need these heroes. You know, most of the capitals around the world, you go, you see there are war heroes on a plinth. They've got a statue of them.
Yeah.
So a society needs these heroic acts, people who've done heroic acts in the past, and in its own way, it boosts the spirit. There's something it puts in your spirit, as it were, as a member of that society.
Yeah,
You know, it helps.
I think it's really important that we start celebrating our heroes. I mean, I remember there was this Gambia-Namibia game, and we were at the main entrance of the stadium, you know. Biri came, and he was sent away by the security. They didn't even recognize him. And I will never forget that. And he stood there and he said, I am Biri. I will never forget that. But even with that, you know, they were like, no, we can't allow you in. You don't have a card here and there.
Wow.
And then he turned. You know, he had to leave. So it was, I mean, the second vice president of the JFF who had to intervene, because we called him and he said, you know, that's Biri going because they didn't allow him in. And he said, no. So he had to, you know, go like begging him here and there. So you look at Biri, you look at his contribution to Gambian football, you look at his, you know, status, you know, historically, he's the best we've ever had. And I think, if anything, that should teach us a lot. You know, we need to start celebrating our heroes. And for me, you know, it's not enough to just have Ibu Jangha, you know, at this event where we're remembering war veterans. We can do more than that. We should really go beyond that.
Well, it is said.
To some extent we do. You know, we confer, the president confers, you know, certain medals of recognition to people of outstanding performance, as it were, to one aspect of life or another. You know, what the office, what do you call it, Officer of the Republic of the Gambia, ORG, GCRG, they've got all of these titles. We do. But I know what you mean, perhaps on a more communal, in the public space.
Exactly.
In the public spaces, if you like, statues here and museums there, maybe naming buildings after them. So in the public space.
Like we have with the Kairaba Avenue, the
that sort of thing.
Kairaba International Conference. It's beautiful. I mean,
that's it. And going beyond politics.
Exactly.
As it were, local heroes. Absolutely. Fine idea.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mboj. Thank you very much for joining us on both the newspaper review and also on the Remembrance Day.
We've had him longer today than usual. So
it's a fruitful discussion. You know, it's good sometimes to at least put certain things to Mboj, and he will fire it back to you. Thank you. And we have Mohamed Lamin Choi on the line.
Yeah.
Hello, Choi. Hello. Hello. Okay, all right. I think it's not getting us. Well, we'll take a short break. After the break, the program continues. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
You've got big decisions to make.
For this election, one decision is clear.
Who has the most experience?
Who brings the in-depth coverage?
Who brings you most relevant information?
Now is the time to watch your decision pay off.
Live non-stop coverage.
Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Your text messages and election alerts.
Decision 2021 only on QTV.
Comprehensive election coverage.
Welcome back from that break. Reminded the program is sponsored by One Stop Water Solutions, and we still have Mohamed Lamin Choi. Hello, Choi.
Yes, good morning, Balde.
How are you, Mohamed Lamin Choi?
Alhamdulillah.
Very good.
I trust that you are fine too.
Yes, we are okay. Can you tell us what's happening there at the moment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Balde. We are right now at New Yundum, where we'll be witnessing 2 foundation stone laying and the inauguration of a project that has completed. And the 2 foundation stone laying will be on the construction or the widening of the Battle-Harding Highway. The Banjul International Airport rehabilitation project. So what is happening currently is the arrival of guests. We have seen also ministers, including the Minister of Finance, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Minister of Fisheries, and representative of the Saudi Development Fund, OIC staff. And basically what is happening is people arriving at this event to grace this significant occasion in Gambian history. And in a moment, we will be witnessing also the arrival of the Vice President of the Gambia, Dr. Aïssatou Touré. So basically, this is what is happening here at New Yundum.
Well, Eso, that's Choi.
Yeah, Choi, I mean, I know these projects are in anticipation of the OIC summit that's coming up. But how are these projects also going to transform, Gambia, especially the GBA, in terms of infrastructure?
That's a very important question, Eso. We all of us living, especially in the Greater Banjul area, are a living testimony of the hardship or the problems that we face in terms of mobility across the Greater Banjul area. This project really will decongest traffic and enhance traffic circulation within the Greater Banjul area. So the Battle-Harding Highway will be widened into a dual carriage with 3 lanes in both sides, so significantly decongesting the concentration of traffic in the few roads that we have in the Greater Banjul area. 20 new roads also will be constructed, and we have seen demolitions taking place ahead of the construction of the new roads that we expect to benefit from the OIC. So basically, it will go a long way towards enhancing traffic circulation in the Greater Banjul area.
I mean, so we have 2 very important, key sectors for that matter, who are also, economic drivers. One is transport that is going to benefit from these projects, the transport sector, but also, our tourism sector as well, because of the airport, the VVIP launch that you also mentioned.
Yes, that's true, Eso. We all know that Gambia is a go-to destination in terms of tourism, really, which contributes more than 20% of GDP. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen how tourism has really contributed towards our economy. So increasing the capacity of our airport, one, that is the airport rehabilitation project, which has expanded the capacity of the Banjul International Airport to carry on its activities, and now the construction of the VVIP presidential launch, ultra-modern presidential launch, really will contribute significantly towards boosting the capacity of our airport and also encouraging the arrival of tourists, encouraging visits, tourism, and significantly contributing towards the economy of this country.
Yeah. Well, Choi, from what have you seen so far when it comes to the level of work that they are doing at the moment?
Work is about to start. Now today we are witnessing the inauguration or the foundation stone laying of 2 key priority projects of the OIC, the VVIP Ultra VVIP presidential launch at the Banjul International Airport and the widening of the Battle-Harding Highway. So the work that we have seen happening in recent days is demolitions taking place to give way for the commencement, for the effective commencement of the construction of these roads.
Exactly, that's Mohamed Lamin Choi. And I know if you want to follow more, it will come on our QTV 8 o'clock news. It's very important. Do you have anything?
Yeah, but just a quick one before we take a leave of you, Choi. what does this also mean, I mean, for Gambia, especially in our preparation for the OIC summit? I mean, to have these projects, you know, the foundation laying of these very important projects. You know, of course, people have been skeptical. You know, will it happen? Will it not happen? Will the projects be, you know, implemented or not? Now we have the foundation laying being done today. What does it mean for our preparation?
What it shows is that there has been ongoing works. What it shows is that the OIC has gone very far. What it shows is that Gambians will soon see the commencement of the construction of the roads, the key priority projects of the OIC. So significantly, the OIC, you know, conference center has already been completed, and it was funded by the Chinese government. And these key priority projects, which include expansion and construction of roads in the Greater Banjul area funded by the Saudi Development Fund. So basically what it shows is that there has been some work going on, and this work is about to take center stage. It's about to, you know, reach its climax in ensuring that Gambians see the much needed development that they need in terms of transportation, in terms of traffic mobility, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mo Lamin Choi, for talking to us on this morning.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Mahmoud Lamin Choi there to witness the laying of the foundation stone. Well, we all know it's important also. The OIC, it comes with a lot of things. I mean, at the end of time, it's going to benefit our country. We are the one who's going to benefit from it. Roads are very important. And you've also seen they are working on the VVIP launch at the Banjul International Airport.
But you see, the OIC summit is the second largest convergence of you know, heads of states. And for me, if anything, I think small Gambia should be very proud that we have an opportunity to welcome leaders from all over the world to our beautiful, beloved country. You know, these projects, no doubt, they will have a huge impact on our lives. And I mean, you look at sectors like transport, tourism, you know, aviation, they're all going to benefit from this project, not just the ordinary Gambian. And I think it's important, and this is going to create an opportunity, I mean, job opportunities for many people, especially young people. So it's great. I mean, you look at our transport sector, you look at traffic in this country, I mean, especially within the Greater Banjul area, it's always congested. So when we have 20 more new, you know, standard roads, you know, like the Battle Harding Highway to be widened, you know, dual carriage roads, I think it's...
Well, I mean...
When I look at the pictures, you know, I just cannot wait to have these projects.
No, definitely. You see, especially when it comes to roads. In this country, I think we need better roads. I mean, and this OIC project, it's doing a thing like that. If you look at the roads that we use from Brikama to Banjul, it's a bit tight. People struggle a lot. But with the expansion of that road, at the end of time, it will ease the traffic at this area, because they are planning at least to create other roads too that will connect to the Battle Harding Highway, which will ease
even the Battle Harding Highway is going to be widened, and you'll have, you know, things will change. I'm looking at the pictures, really, like I said, I can't wait to have all of these projects completed, so we can start using them, and it will make life easier for everyone.
And we are urging Gambians at least to bear with the people doing this project, because at the end of time, it's for us.
We have to support them. We have to take part in ensuring that all these projects are successfully implemented, that, you know, the construction of the roads and everything else, you know, it's done successfully, and you know, before we know, we start enjoying it. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, so I'm afraid this is all we have for today on this morning.
Yeah, we look forward to another interesting, you know, program tomorrow, God willing.
Yes.
And so we thank our sponsors, we thank our viewers as well.
Thank you very much for watching, and until we come your way again, Bye for now.
You've got big decisions to make.
For this election, one decision is clear.
Who has the most experience?
Who brings you in-depth coverage?
Who brings you most relevant information?
Now is the time to watch your decision pay off.
Live non-stop coverage.
Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Your text messages and election alerts.
Decision 2021 only on QTV.
Comprehensive election coverage.
ne yelloo na ndox mu set te ndox mu set dafa bokk ci dunni doomu aadama te biir kat amul seetu waral na lépp lu fay dugg dafa war a doon li nga xamante ne ni lu indil doomu aadama bi loraange ci wàllu wérgu yaram One Stop Water Solution Limited ñu ngi fii ci biir réew taxaw temm fexe pour gis ne doomu aadama bu ne di nga naan ndox moo xamante ne ni ndex mu sell te wóor la ndax indil nañ leen ay xeetu filtres yi nga xamante ne ni mun ngeen koy jëfandikoo ci seeni pompe yi ci biir réew moo xam booxool ngay jëfandikoo wala pompe nawek yi ne bépp xeetu filtre bi nga xamante ne ni dina la indil wérgu yaram musal la ci loraange amal nañ leen ko ci biir réew am nañ 10-inch filter set of 3 bii nag ñett lay àndal bu ci ne ak li muy liggéey bokk na ci 5 micron pp sediment filter bii nag mooy segg ndox mi ba mu set génne fa lépp li nga xamante ne ni warta ànd ak ndox moomu bala nga koy jëfandikoo gak granule carbon filter bii nag mooy segg génne lépp lu xeetoog chemical ak organique yi nga xamante ne ñoom ñoo nekk ci biir ndox mi sellal ndox mi ba waral mu soppi li nga xamante ne moom la ndox mi di saf mu soppi cafin gi def ko ndox mu sell te óor CTO block carbon filter bii nag du yem rek ci segg ndox mi sellal ko ba mu sell waaye nag daf koy yokk ay ngéneel yi nga xamante ne ni day baax ci wérgu yaramu doomu aadama bi dëgëral waaye tamit yàggal lool sa yuur wi am nañ tamit 12-inch filter set of 3 boobu it liggéey bu nu mel lay def ñetti filter yépp benn bu ne ak lu muy liggéey am nañ 10-inch post carbon 10-inch coconut carbon 75 GPD pure one membrane bi amal nañ leen bépp xeetu water tank tàmbalee ko ci 500 litres 5000 ba ci 1000 litres ak plumbing fittings kon nag mbokk yi bu ngeen buggee naan ndex yu sell te wóor seeti leen One Stop Water Solution Limited suñu makkaan bu mag baa nga foofa ca Sukuta Highway Mariama Kunda Johnson wala nga call ñu ci 505 5691 796 8272 One Stop Water Solution Limited ndox mu set mooy yàggal dund ni doom